Good morning, everyone. My name is Eleni Summershield. I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at Wise Agent. I have our marketing manager, Sarah Webb, with us today. I always love having people from our team on. Hey, Ed.
Ed's here. Hi.
Hey, Ed. So if you guys wouldn't mind, Ed's already started. If you guys wouldn't mind posting in the chat what city, state, and your brokerage, and how many years you've been in business. I always love seeing where everyone is coming in from. I started my business travel for the year last week, so that's why I wasn't on the podcast. But I was in, where was I, Sarah? I was in Atlanta.
Georgia.
Yes, I was in Atlanta. So I got to see Greg Hanner. I got to see some of our friends out there. Judy Bear, she'd come all the way out from Hawaii. So Judy, if you're watching, I know it's early in Hawaii right now, but hello, or Greg. Hey there. So, and a few other people, I just can't remember everyone I meet. But anyways, I'm happy to have you guys all with us today. So we're going to be talking all about leveraging emails as a real estate marketing strategy. We recently had a little makeover on our email contacts page. So we're going to go through some of that, right? And then also talking about good strategies. And that's why I have Sarah, who is our resident email marketing expert. Was that an alliteration or was that just me? I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Sarah's going to be talking all things that she does here, and we're going to be sharing some of our expert tips for you guys to make yourself really successful. So let's kick it off, Sarah. I think everyone is here to really hear how to be successful. And I think one of the questions that are probably in people's minds, and you guys can post this in the Q&A section. We'll be reading those questions out, or in the chat, we'll be reading out those questions for those of you that are listening in on the podcast. But I think one of the questions is is email marketing, is that still a good way of getting your message across to your clients and potential clients?
For sure. I think email, I don't know. I feel like anytime any new sort of medium comes out, people are like, email's dead. People just like to say that. Then everyone likes to come back and say, email's not dead. So I guess that's what I'm going to say too.
Yeah.
We definitely, I know for sure, it depends on your audience. It can. I know some audiences that skew younger, maybe it isn't so heavy in their preferred communication, but I know for us and for probably anyone who's of a home buying age, it definitely is very effective, and that is a great way to get in front of people where I think a lot of people, when it comes to important decisions, they expect to have a lot of email communication. I'm sure that we see that, or you guys see that with your clients. There is an expectation that email is a part of any communication you have with a business or with
yeah,
the business, which
yeah,
are, yeah,
definitely. I mean, I'm always even here at work or whatever it is, it's okay, send me that proposal, send me that agreement, over email or over, whatever DocuSign or whatever it is. I'm never expecting somebody to use a pigeon carrier or walk it over or bring it over, even snail mail, an agreement to me or something along those lines. Anything of any kind of importance typically comes through email, and it is obviously the fastest way to communicate. I mean, I remember back in the day, I'm a Gen Xer. Back in the day, communication, my family lives in Greece. A good majority of my family, we, communicating with them overseas was, a big to do. It was a big task. And even not just overseas, but even in other states, it was expensive. And, you didn't really do it very often because of the expense and the whole thing there was a big production. And now you can talk to people all around the country within a heartbeat, FaceTime, Zooms, everything else, that email, all of this stuff that's now available to you. Communication has really closed the gap in the world where everyone's a lot closer together now. So,
yeah. And I think email makes a lot of sense for a lot of the marketing that I would expect our members to be doing, just because you know, it feels professional, whereas when sometimes on social media, it can feel a little too casual. And or sometimes I know I sent you something, Eleni, earlier in the week that was from someone, and I was like, this is a thing they announced on social, but did we get like an email about it? Like that feels a little bit more official in a way. I don't know if everybody else feels that way, but that's, you know, that's definitely how I think about it. And it's also a good place to meet people where when they're in a good headspace for it. So they wouldn't necessarily be total like casual relaxed mode going through social media, or you like a text or something where they're like, oh, I'll come back to it. You have like their attention in an inbox. If you're able to, you know, do some things that we'll talk about later, as far as like, you know, having them actually open your emails and using some best practices so that you are getting messages in front of people.
Yeah, I'd love to hear what our audience thinks of that. So if you guys wouldn't mind using the chat to kind of comment on that, like, do you feel like email can be a little bit more? I know for me, when I'm doing email, like I'm going to sit in front of, I'm going to sit in front of it a little bit longer. It's not going to be, usually a text. It's like, yes, no, kind of short. And then sometimes I have to go back and be like, I should have put in my like pleasantries in there. But email is a little bit more lengthier. You get your message across a little bit more, and it has more thought to it for sure. And that professionalism does come across. Not that you can't be professional with text, you can. It just, I think for the initial message, sometimes it can come across a little bit more.
For sure. Yeah. It can be a little bit, there's like an assumed sort of, I don't want to say like casualness, but there is like that sort of, you're bringing it into
familiarity.
A different realm. Yeah. So I think especially for, when you are starting to grow your list and you're trying to get people more engaged with any of your marketing, email is like a great place to start.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the open rates, I mean, I know a lot of questions came in about like, how do I get people to open my emails? How do I get them delivered to the right, to increase that open rate? How do I get them in their inbox and not going to spam? And we're going to get into that too, because I think that's an important thing, is that your deliverability should be, there should be some kind of, there is a method to the madness to get things to the right people. And it shouldn't just be like a blank check to everybody. It shouldn't just be like one thing to everybody. There should be some, and I'm going to say the word that I say like at every single one of these is segmenting. I'm like, I can need to come up with a different word, but segmenting your audience is like the most critical thing about getting those open rates and everything else at a higher percentage. So what are your thoughts on that, Sarah?
Yeah, I think I think we all can tell when a message is just like carelessly put out there, and it's just kind of like, this could be for anyone. This could be for my mom. This could be for, the kid down the street. Like, you just sent it to everyone and you don't know me from like the next person on your list. And that, it's almost like that canned message thing where you're like, okay, like, thanks for your time. And then that when you are repeatedly getting those messages, that's when, people are gonna be like, I'm not gonna like open it. And that's kind of, I know we had some questions too about like just like how many times you should be emailing people. And I would say, I don't think there's like a set number that you can say like, I need to send out 4 emails a week, unless you have something to say 4 times a week. That's what I would be careful of. That's what I would let dictate the sort of consistency of your emails, is like, are you providing value? Would you want to open this email? Do you have 4 things in the week that you need these people to know? And I think when you're segmenting, like, possibly that is true. But I can't say like for everyone you would have that much to say all the time.
Yeah.
Maybe you do, like a big company for sure, like, or like just things happening all the time, possibly. But that's one thing to think about. I think some people think there's a number like that's true for everyone. And I don't think that exists.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think I agree with what Christy is saying, that there is important to have a balance between all the communication methods out there: social, email, phone calls, in person, all of that. I mean, I 100% agree with that, because your marketing shouldn't just be one thing. It shouldn't just be, email, and then I'm never going to call them, or I'm never going to text, or I'm never going to, see them in person. I think it's really important to have all of those aspects. So I agree with that. And I think going back to the segmenting and like the number of emails that go out, Sarah, I feel like, so the other day, not sometimes I do tend to walk around the office, and I was walking around yesterday and heard some of the team talking about an agent that's wanting, there was a request for being able to send out 30,000 emails in one day. She wanted to send out. And I was like, wow, that's a lot of emails. Like, how big is her team? Like, that's fantastic. And I'm like, we could do it. And they're like, oh, she's a solo agent. I'm like, oh, that's crazy. 30,000 emails. Like, does she expect responses from them, or does she just want it to be like, hey, I'm alive, like, just so you all know? I mean, because that's like fine too, I guess, but I don't know if that really brings value in any way. And so one of the things that we had discussed with this member was, if there's going to be, and I know the open rates can vary depending on how you're doing it, right? But let's just say the open rate, because I think the average open rate is around 40 some percent, 43 to 45% for emails. But let's just say her open rate would have been 20%. That would have been 6,000 emails that she would have had open, and about, let's say, half of those people actually replied back. That's 3,000, or even, 5%. It's still an atrocious amount of people. That's an overwhelming number that you cannot handle. So there's a big reason you don't want to send out a message and then kind of like walk away, kind of like a mic drop, and just be like, all right, I'm just gonna be over here and not reply back to you.
Radio silence.
Yeah. That's not good email marketing practices, right? You want to.
It's kind of like casting like just the widest net, or just throwing everything out and being like, we'll just see what happens, like, and what we get. And then it's like, was that helpful, or like, would you rather use your time a little bit more like effectively to really narrow down something and then actually achieve results,
success.
Instead of just like, here's hoping.
I mean, like, I know there's almost 1.6, 1.7 somewhere in there million realtors in the US, right? And so for us, let's say if we were gonna email all of those people, I mean, even though yes, everyone is an agent, so they have that commonality, but if you break it down, there's different levels. So even if we're thinking about it from your perspective, right? From the realtor's perspective, you're talking to people in your database. You have people that are maybe first-time home buyers. Maybe they're just renters and like not, they need to get credit repair done and to be able to afford a house or something and save or whatever it is. Maybe you've got investors. Maybe you have empty nesters. Maybe there's like, I don't know, probably a dozen so of different criterias that you would have in your database. So if you sent everybody a message saying, hey, do you want to buy or sell a house? It's going to fall flat, because they're going to be like, not right now, thanks, I'm good, right? I mean, it should be more directed to the right people.
Yeah. And then I think also one reason that you would also want to segment down and make sure you're speaking directly to that person is if, for example, you sent that email that you're saying like, do you want to buy or sell your house? What's the call to action there? Like, what's the goal? Is like they reply, or like that they, and then tell you, I just don't know if people are going to be like, yeah, let me just reply to this email and be like, here's exactly my situation. Like you want to kind of take them through something more specific that I don't think you can achieve with such a general message. And I don't think anyone would be compelled to like go through whatever call to action that might be. So you would want to, for example, just be like, okay, these are people that I know in my database that I've worked with before, and they probably are in a position where they might want to find something bigger, scale down, and really get that messaging in front of them and be like, hey, here's maybe a page of some of my listings. Like we have those properties, be like, does any, if you're thinking about doing this, or here's some things you need to know, go to this landing page and it has these top tips on what to do, or like, let me know and I can send you a guide on what you need to know for like paring down some of your belongings and things like that. So speaking more to where people are actually at instead of this very general message where people are like, I don't even think you know who I am again.
Right, yeah.
On,
Who I am and
on
what my needs are.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the likelihood of them, so, there was a question about, Kevin's asking a question like, how do I get my emails to not go into spam, right? So here's the thing, email servers right now are really smart servers. So they know things. And so one thing that they know is if you are, when you're sending out a message, is that the recipient opening up that message, right? Is that recipient in your contact list, within that email platform? So have they added you to their Yahoo account or their Hotmail account or whatever, Gmail or whatever it is, or heaven forbid, AOL? Right. So are they, I'm not a big fan of AOL. So are they in there? Are they opening up messages repeatedly? And are they sending you messages? Are they replying to your messages? So they look at those things. Now, specifically, Kevin, for your thing about, your CCs go into spam, you can train your inbox. So even your consumers, your buyers and sellers can train their email to actually have your emails not go to spam. So in Gmail and in most platforms, most email marketing platforms, you can drag and drop that from the spam folder, mark it not as spam, and then have it go into your inbox. And then that will help with that, right? They have to do that one time. And then once you do it that one time, then it will not go into spam in the future. So that's a really important thing. Now, is it your job to really train your consumers, your buyers and sellers about your, inbox best practices? No, I'm not saying like have a class on that. I think that would be a little intense, but I think what we're talking about here, what we were talking about is segmenting your audience and sending the right message to the right person will help in that process. Because if you follow up with kind of what Christy was saying about, oh, I do texts and phone calls and emails and social. So when you send out an email and you don't see a response, you don't see it being opened, you can text and say, hey, Christy, I sent you an email, just wanted to make sure you found that in your inbox.
Yeah. And I think an easy way that you can do that right off the bat, where it's not, you're having them doing that without literally telling them to do that, is utilize some kind of like lead magnet or send something to their email that they're going to go looking for. So, I like, if somebody sends me something, it like doesn't matter what it is, I'll be like, oh, and I don't get it right away, I'm like, let me check my spam, and and then I'll be like, oh, this is not spam, and then, but nobody told me to do that. Like, it's just, I wanted what was in that email, and I want to make sure I always get that email. Right. So one way that you can accomplish that is, like, we do have lead magnets in the system. We do have ways you can set that up. So right off the bat, when you're getting new leads or any, you're sending out these emails where you're trading some kind of information like a guide or anything for these people's emails, you would be able to then email them that, and then they're going to go open that email and interact with that email, hopefully reply, and then then your email provider will know, their email provider will know that they want those emails, and so then that is not going to happen.
Yeah, then basically your buyers and sellers, your consumers, are actually going to be training their email server saying like, hey, I want to read this message. So that's how you get that. I mean, there's various ways of doing that. And I love that you brought up the lead magnets, Sarah, because that's one of my favorite features and the favorite tool of mine, because I think that's such a great way. And I know there was a question about like, how do I increase my database? How do I add more people so I can email them more frequently, or email more people in general to get, I mean, the whole purpose of email, right, is so you can get to the closing table so you can make more money and have more business, right? It's not just to like tell people that you're still alive and like, hey, I'm here, like that's great, but
it is nice. Yeah, I was gonna say it's nice to send like a hey, like, yeah. I don't, not be too pushy all the time. Like, this is why I'm here, real estate, like I need to pay my mortgage. Like, you do want to be like, you know, it's always, that's the best way to organically grow a list, is to be sending out emails where you're saying something about like local events or things that are happening with you, just adding a little bit more personality, because I think if people want just really like dry, regular real estate sort of how to, they can Google it.
Yeah,
Everyone
exactly.
has the ability, but you need to be able to say like, here's here's why you want to hear it from me and what I can do for you, and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
so one of the things I'm seeing some things here, and I think Kate's, we do have Kate. I didn't announce this because
we
Sarah is
didn't.
typically our moderator. So she's typically like reading all your questions in the chat and replying to them. And so we have Kate behind camera here, and he's going to be posting questions to everyone, to the answers to everyone, so you guys can see that. But there's a question here on what is a lead magnet, and that, and so what I'm going to do is share my screen. So for those of you that are just listening in, we have so many videos on this and whatnot that you can see. So let me share my screen here. Are we live on Facebook? Because I just got a pop-up thing saying that we are not live, or timed out. I'm not sure, but anyways, okay. All right, so let me go to our welcome dashboard here just to show you guys where we're at. So for the lead magnets, you would just go to, from the marketing section here, you would drop down to the lead landing pages. And here we have our lead magnets that Sarah and her team created. And maybe Sarah, you should maybe talk a little bit more about what the lead magnet is, and I'll show them where they can find these templates here. So there's several of these templates of like the home buying, the 6 steps, and the 5 things you must do when whatever 5 mistakes you'll make and you don't want to make. These are really, I mean, these kind of pull at people's, draw people in, like, oh, I'm about to sell my house and I don't want to, like, I don't want it to fail. Like, I want to make sure, right? That's what, as a potential seller, this is something that I would look at and say, oh, shoot, let me see what this guide says, right?
Yeah, and it should just be offering value. It should be something that they feel like is a good trade for their information, where they can come away and be like, well, at the very least, all I get is this PDF that gives me some tips, like that's helpful to me. And even if I don't do business with this person, like you should feel like you want to build that trust with someone by giving them that information, like with no strings attached. That's sort of like a sign of goodwill. And then when you do have, I know on our landing pages, we do have a little bit of copy in there that we keep in there for you guys, just saying like, yeah, it would be opted into my email list, like that kind of thing. You should always include that kind of disclaimer. And then, but definitely edit it to say what you do plan on sending out. So like, I think the goal here would be like, I'm getting this information. You're getting more information about mistakes sellers make. And then you can make that, that jump to say like, they're thinking of selling soon. So you can give them more information and follow up in a lot of ways, whether it's the call list or anything like that, but definitely via email. You would want to then categorize them and make sure that you're sending them even more information, because they're obviously on the hunt for it.
Yeah. And what I'm sharing on my screen right now is our lead rules, which would basically tell you, and I'll just say that this was, some seller, some seller lead, and just put it, yeah. And so then that would be the source. And what Sarah's saying is, now, because I know that they're going to be sellers, like whoever's going to be clicking on this is going to probably be selling or thinking about selling a property. So now I can add them to a drip campaign about selling, selling their property. I can add them to a category called sellers. I can even add them, and I, love adding people to categories. So I would add them to like my monthly newsletter. So I know that like, this is something I want to send them more information about things. And then for the lead magnets, we have, and by we, I mean, Sarah and her team have created the guides for you. So that's all found in our stock content, where you can come in here and just find all the infographics for all of those things. Did I do this one? I think the
Yeah.
5 steps sellers make 5 mistakes. So then we have all of this in here for you. So this is something that then you can just utilize and say, this is the rule. And so whoever, whoever fills out this form, I'm just gonna save this and then, no, I don't do everything here. And so then now anytime somebody fills out this form, as soon as it says, get the guide, or is that, get my free guide, as soon as they click on that, Wise Agent will automatically send out that guide to them. And you guys can still be living your best life, doing whatever it is that you're doing. And so there's that automation that I absolutely love, because anytime I can get some work done without me having to do it, it's always amazing, right? So that's the goal.
Yeah, and it definitely, people expect it right away.
Yeah.
They just, they're like, I don't want to wait. And you don't want them to wait, especially when they're interested right then. So it's nice to be able to just be like, yep, it's going out. I don't have to touch it.
Yes.
But it is, again, even though it is an automatic reply, you want to make sure that it's personalized. We do offer like a lot of things with our emails where you can include people's names, or it is already going to be sort of personalized because they are specifically requesting information that you're giving them. So that is when I think sometimes when we say personalized, people think we mean like one-on-one, like, super, or like segmenting, like it has to be so granular, but it doesn't. It just can't be like everyone.
Right. It can't be a bunch of groups of the same group of, different groups of people that you're sending the same message to. So first time, somebody that's selling a property, you want to talk about selling, you want to make sure that that's geared towards that, as opposed to somebody that might be buying or renting or whatever the case may be. And there was a couple of questions about the lead magnets. So, like how are the lead magnets posted? Are they emailed? What are they doing? So I'm going to share my screen one more time. And so I think it was Christy that was asking. So you can do several different things. You can share these on Facebook. You can take the short URL. You can text this out to your database, or you can email it out to your database. So you can include a lead magnet in your monthly newsletter. You can, and Sarah, I don't know, maybe you want to jump in and talk about where you can be, even on Facebook, you can share these, and I can log into the Facebook side of things and show you guys.
Yeah. So I think, if you're just trying to grow your list, you would definitely want to, you're not going to email it out to people that you already have their emails for, because that's not really the goal there. But definitely I would take advantage of social media, post it, LinkedIn. You can post in some of these Facebook groups where, people are looking for homes, or looking to sort of start that process. I know you can put it actually even on, if you're doing like physical mail campaigns, where you're like farming sort of an area, you can be like, hey, I have this guide for you. If you want to look at, whatever it may be, like if you are offering CMAs, you can be like, hey, yeah, there we go.
I have
So
the
you
postcard
can
right here with the QR code. You can link it to the QR code.
And then you could put that page there. It's going to be automatically capturing their information and adding it into Wise Agent. And then when you've set up some of those other automations, then you're going to be able to stay in touch regularly, aside from any of the email blasts that you may be doing with those lists anyway. Yeah.
And I think I think look at QR codes are back. People are using it all the time. I was watching the Super Bowl last weekend, and every commercial I think had like a QR code on it. So people know what to do with them. They're very powerful. So you can send out, like these are just postcards that we have, that you can order from Wise Agent, and you can insert a QR code for it and then have that going to one of your lead magnets. Cause maybe you're farming that area, or whatever it is, you're missing information.
If you're just trying to just build, your sphere a bit, I would say putting out more information about local events is going to be something good. Like we do have a landing page template for like subscribing to a newsletter, and you could just really be like, hey, I put together like a top 10 list of what to do every month in your city name, and like if you want to receive it to your inbox once a month, sign up below. that's going to be a very cold start, but when you're staying in front of people in that way and they look forward to your emails, you're going to grow that list. People are going to be like, how did you find out about this? And they'll be like, I get these emails, and it goes from there. And when you are sending those emails out with Wise Agent, your information as a real estate professional is going to be on those emails. People are seeing it constantly. You're staying in front of them. So when the time comes, they're going to reach out to you because you're in their inbox.
Yeah. I mean, and that's just the relationship building part of it is, which is really critical. And so when they start seeing, they see that you're an active member of the community and things, you're sending them the top 5 restaurants or the top 10 things to do with a family, as a family around the holidays or whatever it is, or then you become you stand out as that expert of that community. And when they start thinking about, oh, what should I do? Then they will be reaching out to you. So that's a really great way of getting that information.
I was going to say, Jay Shlum does like a really good job with that. He's like on it. That's someone we have locally here that is a Wise member.
Yeah, he's a local realtor here in Fountain Hills. So he does. Jay does a great job. And there's and when I travel, I see people, I'm talking to people, one of the templates that you talked about, our landing page template for the newsletter, I think that was Ed that had requested that. He was like, hey, I want to get people to opt into a newsletter. Can you guys create a landing page template for me? Or is that a good idea or whatnot? And we were like, this is a fantastic idea, Ed. So we created it and gave it to everybody. So there you go, Ed. Thank you. And you guys can all thank Ed for that. And I love what you said, Sarah, about some of the content that you could be sharing out in an email. And we can't have this like whole thing on email marketing without talking about content. So if you guys haven't heard, we have recently integrated with ChatGPT-3. And so we have this new AI, which stands for Artificial Intelligence Writing Assistant. I'm going to share my screen so you guys can see this. Because what's really great about this is you can come in here and you can create content without having to write a bunch of content. So from the marketing drop down and going to the content library, and then here's the part that I really like is, because with ChatGPT-3, when that came out, or when ChatGPT came out in November, I was using it just like a lot of other tech people out there, and it's fantastic, but you couldn't really save any of that content anywhere. It would save just kind of like on your side panel view. But then if you wanted to reuse that content, you'd have to like copy and paste it and put it somewhere. And I was like, oh, so when we started thinking about this integration, I'm like, it needs to be saved somewhere because I need to reuse this content. And so what we've done is we put it in our newly revamped content library, where there's a button here that says AI Writing Assistant. And now you can prompt it to say whatever, so you can prompt it to have it write something for you. So I don't know if anyone wants to post in the chat a prompt, and I'll put it in here. You want it to be kind of specific, right? So Sarah, maybe we can talk a little bit about, what specifically we can say, but then you don't want it to be so specific where, it doesn't work either, right? Like you can't say like, write a whole entire bio about Eleni Summershield, because I don't know. I didn't try that, but I don't think it'll return a lot of.
You want to try it live?
I'm not going to try that live. If you guys want to try that about yourself, go for it. But you want to be a little bit specific on it, but not with so much detail that it's crazy, right?
Yeah. So are you? I don't know.
Well, I was going to say, like, I don't know. Well, if somebody wants to, Mary's saying that she used it to write a property description for some land that she has on the market, and it was fantastic. So, it can be about anything. I've tested it last week. I was visiting some brokers in Atlanta, and I tested it with just saying like, hey, why should write 3 paragraphs about why, we were talking about recruiting, why a realtor should join ABC Realty in whatever, Atlanta, Georgia, and whatever city, state. I think that is such, and it spit out all this stuff, and it was wrote out the 3 paragraphs, I think that is a fantastic tool of doing that, because then you can come in there and then add more things to it, but it gives you a nice jump start to everything.
Yeah, for sure. It's more, it's not to do it all for you, because obviously you want to be putting your personality in there, but it's a tool more to help you not get stuck on this part where you're like, I don't know what to say, or like I kind of know what to say, but I'm really overthinking it, and I'm, not able to kind of get started. It should jumpstart this process for you, where you're not super hung up on, being too tough on yourself about what you're writing in your marketing.
Yeah. And then, so, I mean, so I think if you guys have ever attended any of these webinars, I'm from Chicago, but you can, Chicago is a big city, so you could even put in there, and any of the other metro, areas across the country, you can put in here in, I'm going to say Wicker Park neighborhood. Oh, too many D's. Those are in Chicago, right? Put my space in here. So now I can put in here, be very specific, like why should someone do this in this neighborhood, in the city and state, and that's something that, really becomes really powerful, because now I want to convey, again, it starts off kind of general. So maybe I have an open house in this neighborhood and I want to talk about, the benefits of living in this area, not just only giving people like, it's a 3-bedroom, it's a 2-bath, it has a backyard, it has a whatever. Now I can go a little bit more in detail about the neighborhood without having to like Google and put everything into my own words. I mean, I still want to put things in my own words, but Google everything and then write the whole thing. So now it just, it took a couple of seconds there. I can come in here and clean this up, because I'm not going to put in there paragraph 3 and paragraph 2.
Unless you were like, do you want 3 paragraphs on this specific thing? No.
Exactly. But now you can make this, and you can add to it, you can edit things. I think one of the questions was that we had was, how do I put my own spin on some of the stock content that Wise Agent creates for us, like some of the drip campaigns that Wise Agent creates for us? You just, when you're reading it, if you're stumbling over the words when you're reading it, it's probably because you wouldn't use that word, right?
Yes, for sure.
Change that word around.
Write it like you're writing, like you're talking to a friend, because probably when you do talk to someone and you're comfortable with them, like that is how you're going to speak to them. But I know we use this example a lot, but probably Eleni wouldn't send an email that said y'all, but somebody else probably would, so I like it would be a little jarring, as if you're having this email correspondence and stuff, it's very like stiff, and then you get in person and you're like,
that's not
a little loose. I don't know. You're like, hey. That would be a little strange, and I'd be like, this is not meeting my expectation of this person.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then I love what Christy's saying, can you give it directives about what voice you want it to use? Yes. So you can give it like the tone. If you saw the webinar that my friend J-Man and I hosted together, or that I hosted with him, we wrote it in a Shakespearean tone. We did a hip hop tone. So you can do trustworthy voice, upbeat, fun, casual, more professional, whatever tone you want. You can be that specific. And you could even, I think I did one of these, about buying a property and talking about how it creates generational wealth. I want to make sure that it includes that one subtopic of this, for maybe first-time home buyers or whatever it is. And I want to include that one and make sure that it's, give 3 reasons why one of them needs to be generational wealth. So you can give it that prompt. It really is amazing. Like Francesca is saying, it just is something that should definitely be used. And then clean it up with your own words, with your own language, with whatever it is that you think. Like if you think there should be something else added to here, then add to it. But then here's the beauty of it all, is now I can go ahead and add, I can say, add this to, I can't type and talk at the same time. Sorry, guys. I can add this to my content of library, And, you know, and then I can reuse this whenever I need to reuse it. So it's a little bit more like this would be kind of along the same lines like what we were doing with the infographics. You can obviously even adjust these and kind of create the infographics on your own using like Canva or some other tool, and then take some of the content from here and plug it into those infographics. So really, again, it's about, you know, segmenting your audience so then you know who you're sending the message out to, and then figuring out the right message to send to them.
Yeah.
Um,
And
yeah.
kind of back to like personalizing it, but I know when I was writing a couple things, or like having it write a couple things, just sort of like stock content kind of ideas for our members.
Yeah.
I was doing a couple different things where I'd say like write an email about this to a past client, and it would sort of spit it out in one tone, and I'd be like, write an email to a friend saying this, and then I would kind of be like, this is probably a better tone for this. So, you know, play around with it for sure. And then you should be able to take a look at it and say like, this feels really stiff, or like this, I probably would not be this casual.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, definitely. And you want to, and then change it. So then it does sound like you, like, use the words that you use. If it uses a word that you've never used before, then probably eliminate that. Or if you always use a certain word, you know, instead then of whatever, then use that word. It just should be customized, and it shouldn't, you know, I know there's still some things on, you know, is it plagiarism? Is it, you know, some of the ethical things behind all of this? And I think it's not just about the ethics behind it, but I think it's also because you can use the same prompt like within minutes or seconds of one another, and it'll be different, right? So I'm not too concerned about that portion of it, but I am more concerned about the tone and it sounding like me. The way I talk is different than Sarah talks, right? And so so then people should, when they're reading it, say like, oh, I could totally hear her saying this, you know.
One thing, and I think people, this is a suggestion even for any writing that you do that you're, you know, going to be putting out there, is to read it out loud.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's how I catch a lot of my mistakes, or like just things where I'm like, that doesn't sound right. Is reading it out loud, and not just saying like real quick, like skimming, like here was my response, you know, actually saying it out loud.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be like, this sounds, I would never say this. You're going to catch it, like Eleni said, when it's coming out of your mouth, you're going to be like, oh, I know like for here, we do a lot of script writing, and that's another thing you can definitely use this tool for, is if you did want to send out an email like about local events and you wanted a little help with like the script, you can do that. But that is definitely, when you're saying it out loud, you're going to be like, you think that's strange. Like that felt weird. But yeah. So it's important too that you're staying consistent. It's important to stay consistent in all of your marketing.
Yeah. And I love what you said about the script writing, because that can help you. I know a lot of you are still not doing video, most likely because you're like, I don't know what to say on video. So this should, you know, and I know there's the other reason of like, oh, I don't know if I like how I look on there. Get over it. You know, this is it. And so yeah. And so this is it. This is what I got. This is what I'm giving you. And it's okay. And so I think that you know, at least if you know what you say and you sound intelligent when you're coming across, and you sound like you, and you don't sound like you're trying to pretend to be somebody that you're not, then it's going to come across as genuine and sincere. And the people that like you and are, you know, are wanting to talk to you will be reaching out to you, because that's what we do. I mean, as humans, we kind of are naturally attracted to people that are similar in nature to us. And so that's who we, you know, most likely do business with, people that are similar to us. Yeah.
And I know we added, like, we have a few integrations and we make it pretty easy to add videos into email. So, and there's all kinds of stats about, you know, how video performs in email, and even like putting it in your subject line that there's a video in there, increases open rates quite a bit. So, just because I think people prefer to watch a video real quick than to like read a whole long thing. I know like we do that with a lot of our blogs, where we'll put in, you know, a video that is kind of the same thing as the blog, but just gives you an option.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and you mentioned stats and statistics. So I think we would be amiss if we didn't talk about the statistics that we released with the new email contacts page, because I think that's really important, is that, so we've talked a lot about what you should be doing and all of this, but it's really important to go back and measure that success, right? Like, are you on
Yes.
track or not?
Yes, and then I know a lot of the reporting that we are including now is going to help all of you with when you're setting your goals for what you want this email to do. You can see like, I want to get this many people opening it. I want my open rate to go up, and just track your progress over time. And then that is how I decide if the email is working or not, or if I'm like, we did something weird, like this flopped, and let's never do that again. Let's make a note. There's like a lot of testing that you need to do with emails. From anything from like subject lines to like the images, like if a video does, like you might find that you send a video out and you're like, people didn't respond to that. It could be because everyone's audience is completely different, and you just need to like find out what works for you and kind of like double down on that. And that is, the reports are how you would do that. So, if you're getting a lot of clicks, maybe, you're like, this call to action, like people responded really well to it. So like it can be the difference between like a like a learn more or like a start it now. Maybe the learn more is like a little softer, so people are like less intimidated instead of being like, I'm committing right now. So the reports are how you would find out what's working and what's not, and like just splitting up some of your segments and saying like, I'm going to send this email to like a segment here, and then another to this segment, and see what is actually producing results.
Yeah. And that would be a good way of like, because I'm sure there's some people out there that are like, I'm guilty of not segmenting my audience. I don't know who some of these people are. Like, I don't remember where Bob and Sally came from. I have no idea who these people are. I may never have talked to them before in my life, or at least if I did, I don't recall. And so where do they fit? Well, they would fit in something like uncategorized or some kind of, segment of that, where that is where then you would be able to see like, hey, if where you can create these call to action buttons and then figure out where they belong.
Yeah. Or you could utilize ranks.
Yeah.
You could be like, I wouldn't make them a rank A because you're like, I don't know how to talk to these people yet. But yeah, and then also that's a great segment, in that you're like, I'm going to reach out to these people to find out more. So that is a segment already.
Yeah, exactly. And so that then you can deliver your message to that group that would be a little bit softer, like they'll learn more instead of sign up now, like, and it's more intense.
It could be a thing where we do also have a landing page template that is I want to help me get to know you better. Yeah. That would be a perfect example for that. So you would just send it to them and be like, hey, I'm just trying to, clean up my database. Like, I haven't stayed in touch. Like, I'm really sorry. We talk about that a lot, is like what people don't know what to say when they haven't been staying in touch. That's a great way to start that whole ball rolling. And then you can go ahead and then get really specific with your segments later.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think that's always a great start of just saying like, hey, I'm updating my address book. And then what you could do is, for the people that you only have an email address for, you send them that in an email, and then you have them fill out their cell phone number, their address, their whatever. And if it's, if you only have a cell phone number, then you text them that information. So it's a really good way to kind of segment. It's still segmenting your audience, because you don't know who these people are. You'll have partial information on them. You can ask them questions like, when's your birthday? What's your favorite, flower, cocktail, beverage, whatever it is that you want, favorite restaurant or cuisine. I mean, all sorts of things, and then with that, the people that respond to that will automatically, those details will get updated automatically in Wise Agent. But then you'll also know that this would be a great time to reach out to them. Like, hey, Bob, thanks for filling this form out and updating my address book. I'd love to catch up with you and see how the family's doing. Do you have time on Tuesday for lunch? that's a great way to like then get back in touch and get back to talking to them.
Or, I mean, you can start really general, and then you can actually see in Wise Agent who's opening your email multiple times. So that's another way that where if you're like, I don't know a lot about this person, but they opened this email about baseball, like an upcoming baseball game, like 10 times. So I think I could probably reach back out to this person regarding something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, some of our statistics that we release to you, that we provide to you, is that open rate. It's also the number of clicks that people, click on for that email. Like if you include a call to action with some button to, schedule a calendar appointment with me, and you're sending them to your Calendly or whatever it is, or fill out this form and you're sending them to a landing page, you'll see those number of clicks, which then tells you how, or watch this video. It will tell you like the success of that video or that landing page or that whatever it is. I think that's a really important indicator to look at to see, hey, should I do this again, or should I, try something different?
Yeah. And I think just maybe like email best practices is like this, you're going to be getting better
See,
results
Sarah.
from just like in a very general way. Like you don't want to be sending like super long emails. I really just think like, what would you want to get and what would you actually respond to? And that probably will give you a good indication of what's going to work for your email marketing. So like, I know like Eleni sent me a test email earlier and I was like, that's the longest email I've ever seen. Like, I would just like, I'd just like, no one would read this. I would be like, she's proposing something, a new law. Like, I don't know. But so
I
I
probably
think,
copy and pasted it for my kids' schools because I
Yeah.
feel like their emails are ridiculously long. And I'm like, I'm not going to read all of this. Can you send me bite-sized information of what I need to know? Like graduation, here you go.
yeah. And I think even
This.
if you're finding that you have content that is really long and you're like, I like this all feels kind of important, break it up into like multiple, like a series of emails, and
There
then
you go, drip campaigns.
Yeah, exactly. And then that way, not only are you, then you have a lot of content, but then also you're staying in front of people consistently. And that was one thing we didn't really talk about, and I know we're running out of time, but
Yeah.
is like the staying consistent with emails. I was watching an email webinar yesterday, and they were saying that like one way that you can seem really spammy is having a really inconsistent email sending schedule, and like ramping up and ramping down like really sporadically, because that is what spam senders do. So we had a question about templates and stuff, but yeah, we do have lots of templates, like email templates that you can do. And I know you can bring some of those templates over from MailChimp. Is that?
Yeah, you can copy and paste the source code from either MailChimp or Constant Contact. They have like a source button, and our support staff can help you with that, Francesca. So maybe Cade can post how to get in touch with our support staff, because they'll walk you through that whole step.
But yeah, like I was saying, so just staying consistent, you'll want to stay consistent anyway with your email, just because you don't want to totally drop the ball and then feel like every 4 months you have to, or not 4 months, but like maybe 4 months you have to send this email that's like, hey, again, like there should be some consistency again. And then I know how we do it here is like, we'll have kind of a spreadsheet, but you can definitely utilize your Wise Agent account to set like reminders on your calendar. So like, I know our newsletter comes out on the 21st of every month. So you can get that ready, put it on your calendar that you need to go in and sort of personalize it and get it ready to send out. And then you can schedule it out. So you don't have to go back in there and touch anything after you have it all set. So definitely is important to stay consistent and not just be like, oh shoot, it's Easter tomorrow. Like, let me just blast something out, even though I don't talk to these people very often. And then, there is.
I was just going to jump in and say, don't be that person that sends out an email to 30,000 people once a year, and then you just don't ever really talk to them again. I mean, that's not like, I get it. You want to try and like, I guess, fish for business, but that's not the way of doing it. It's the consistency will help with the open rate, will help with the deliverability, will help with the like return, right? Which like the replies, you want that, because if you're consistent, and I'm always sending a message to Sarah saying like, hey, Sarah, there's this great, this great neighborhood. I'd love for you to like get more information about it. And I keep sending her top restaurants and top things to do. And here's this, and here's property valuations of it. Oh, and I know that you're interested in, Elvis. And so here's, there's like an Elvis museum. I can see your Elvis behind you, Sarah. And, and so, whatever it is, and I'm talking to her the way that she wants me to talk to her. And like, I know her, then she's going to continuously read those messages. And then eventually when she's ready, because never does it work out where we meet somebody in this business to buy a property, and then the very next day we're sitting at the closing table signing papers and the deal is done. It just does not work that way. This is a long-term game. And so it takes months, sometimes years, and that's okay. But it's forging that relationship and building it up, where then anytime Sarah's got a real estate question, it doesn't even matter, even if it's about refinancing or, hey, so what's going on with the neighbor? I see a for sale sign, you want her calling you instead of whoever's listed on that for sale sign.
Yeah. Or not just Sarah's friends.
Yes.
Sarah's friends buy houses too. And they're going to be like, oh, we're thinking about it. And I'm like, you know who you should call.
Right.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Which has happened. Yeah. So,
yeah, absolutely. And that's how you grow your business. That's exactly how you do the relationship part of it. We'd love to hear like some of the things that you guys are doing. I love that, we saw some, I think it was Mary that had posted like what her prompt was for the AI writing assistant. And, she posted what it gave her on a property that she did. So we love hearing your feedback. Like we mentioned earlier, Ed was like, hey, can we do a newsletter template? Whatever feedback you may have for us, we'd love to hear that and share that with us, because we do listen and we do make decisions on your feedback. So
yeah, I think like most of our best features came from, like member suggestions, and then us kind of being like, okay, well, how will this work? Like, how will it really work? So definitely our Facebook group is a great place to post suggestions like that, where we always see it in there and then share it with the team and then kind of put it on our agenda to like see like where this fits in. So, or if it's, content requests, we can handle some of that stuff too, as long as it's not anything wild. But yeah, I mean, now you have an AI bot that can definitely help you. So, but if you have questions on how to build out even some of these emails, like we do that all day, every day, our team. So like we use Wise Agent, so we can kind of be like, okay, so here's a good thing that you want to do, or here's what I always do. We're happy to talk to any of that, and we're all in the group. So
yeah. Absolutely.
Maybe.
So yeah, and then we posted there. I saw we posted the calendar update yesterday, and there's a few more updates coming up. Our dev team is busy working on all that stuff, so we're excited to be bringing that all to you guys. So thank you so much, Sarah. You gave us so much information. I hope you guys are all taking notes, but if any of you that weren't, that's okay, because this will be on replay. You're going to get this delivered to your inbox. It'll live forever and ever and ever on YouTube, and I guess on Facebook, maybe possibly forever. So I appreciate you guys. And then it's also as a podcast, you can listen in on Spotify and all the other mediums there. So next week I'll be back with Alicia Romo. Alicia is a lender here in the Valley in the Phoenix area, and she and I are going to be talking about building your real estate business through relationships. So kind of what we started talking about here at the tail end, but it is what I mean. This whole entire business is about relationship building, and so it is about how to build that, and it can be daunting for some people, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that one because I know she does a lot with our landing pages and sending out emails and stuff. Like she's really got a whole funnel, and I always like, seeing what she's doing and like, oh, that's what she's doing with it. So that would be really interesting.
Yeah, that one's going to be a great one. So awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for being here with us. I'll see you guys next week. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.